Hey guys, come on in the room. We're talking about student loan forgiveness. Today is the last day that you can qualify and apply for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program. So if you guys are just coming into the room, we're talking about the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness and the public service loan forgiveness as well as student loan forgiveness. So come on in the room. It is October 31st, so it is the last day to submit your application for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program. Nade 99, welcome. LaBelle Mama 993, welcome. We're talking about the student loan forgiveness, specifically temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness, which today is the final day, this is October 31st, to apply for the loan forgiveness program, but the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. So the public service loan forgiveness program, that is still going. So there'll be a few things that will change. So if you're just coming in, we're talking about student loan forgiveness, specifically temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. Today is the last day, the very last day. Beth Galhan, thank you so much. Go ahead and yes, please follow the broadcast, like, comment, share with somebody who needs the information, because today, this is Monday, it's the last day. Because after this, we'll talk about a few changes. So a few changes that will occur after the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness ends is that, let's say you are a teacher and you receive teacher loan forgiveness. With the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program, you can actually kind of double dip. So you basically can have your payments qualify for the teacher loan forgiveness and qualify for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. So your payments will go towards both of those programs, which put you that much closer towards complete forgiveness. And then if you are a retired borrower, so someone who has now retired from their full-time nonprofit or government entity job, and you still are holding student loans, normally PSLF, you cannot get your loans forgiven unless you are still working at that organization, that qualifying employer. But with the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness that ends today, if you're retired and you applied today, so you're getting in just under the wire, you would be able to both stay retired and apply and receive forgiveness for the complete amount of your loans. Because remember, the public service loan forgiveness, as well as temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness, basically means that you get complete student loan forgiveness if you pay 120 payments or 10 years worth of payments. And the caveat with the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness is that your $0 payments during COVID, so after March 13, 2020, so basically you weren't paying because your payments and interest were frozen. So since you weren't paying, you were like, okay, that's great. But guess what? You weren't paying, but those $0 suspended payments, for what I call them, counted towards your 120 payments. But this is only if you apply by today. So now after this, the program will go back to how it was before. So the teacher loan forgiveness benefit and the retirement benefit, those will be gone when the public service loan forgiveness, the regular program, starts, which is, it'll begin again tomorrow unless something changes by the end of the day. Biden has not extended the public service loan forgiveness program, the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program. But there are a few things here that are here to stay. So if you are just coming in the room, we're talking about student loan forgiveness, specifically the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program that ends today. So which means it is the last day that you will be able to apply and qualify for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program. So a few things that are here to stay that are, so it'll go back to the regular public service loan forgiveness starting tomorrow, November 1st. So a few things that are here to stay is that because also during the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program, you could have partial payments, lump sums, and late payments. When under the normal program, those were not okay. They would say unless it's a full payment, unless it's on time, that was the only way that you would be able to get the payment to count towards your 120 payments. Kat, thank you so much for that. Yes, guys, please go ahead and follow, like, share the broadcast. I really appreciate that. Kat, I am good, doing well. How about you? A little tired, an eventful weekend. How about you? Warren Robert Jr., welcome in the room. So the regular public service loan forgiveness, they will keep that. You'll be able to pay partial payments, lump sums, and that's basically it. Just partial payments and lump sum payments, that kind of thing. They'll keep that for the public service loan forgiveness program. And then the average hours that you had to work per week were 30 hours. So that will also be kept in the new program. Kat, good. I'm glad to hear that. Also, they'll extend the circumstances where you can get forbearance and deferment on this public service loan forgiveness program and still have those payments count. It used to be particular reasons. So there was this reason. Those are the only reasons that you could have deferment or forbearance. And so now that list will be extended, and then those payments will still count towards your public service loan forgiveness. Excuse me. And then the other thing is that so the public service loan forgiveness program, you can, and we'll talk about the caveat too. So you can, consolidate your privately or commercially held, FFEL loans and Perkins loans into a direct consolidation loan. Because that is also something that is very important in order to qualify for the program. We'll talk about more of those benefits and qualifications here in a few minutes. So that you have to have all of your loans be a direct consolidation loan. So with the public service loan forgiveness program, you will consolidate your FFEL loans that are privately held or commercially held and your Perkins loans into a direct consolidation loan. Then with this new program, the new overhauled program for PSLF, you'd have to do it by May 1st of 2023. So that is a caveat. Because remember, there's a difference between the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness or PSLF and the student loan forgiveness. Because remember, the student loan forgiveness that Biden just announced, where you get the $10,000 for regular borrowers and $20,000 if you have a Pell Grant, that loan forgiveness program said that as of, I believe it was like September 28th, if you didn't consolidate before the announcement, then you would know your FFEL loans and Perkins loans that were privately or commercially held no longer qualified for forgiveness. But if you slid in under the wire and went ahead and consolidated those loans right away into a direct consolidation loan, you would receive the forgiveness. So it's very important that when things come out like this, that you go ahead and act quickly, because things change quickly. Because now remember, so FFEL loans and Perkins loans, there was never a date where it expired, if that makes sense. Because now all of a sudden the Department of Education is saying, oh, hey, you need to have your privately held and commercially held FFEL loans and Perkins loans consolidated before May 1st, 2023. Before, I never knew that there was any kind of expiration at all. And then remember, there was no, forewarning for the student loan forgiveness. There was no forewarning that all of a sudden you'd wake up in one day and you had private loans and you intended to consolidate them so they would qualify. And let's say you waited too late, and then now they were like, oh, if you didn't already do it, your loans don't qualify. Because, if you have a forewarning and there's a particular date, most people will do their best to take care of it before that time, right? Jade Blue, welcome. If you guys are just coming in the room, we're talking about public service loan forgiveness, specifically temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. And then if you have questions about the new student loan forgiveness, program, I can answer those as well. Go ahead and like the broadcast. Come on in the room. Share with somebody that you know. That would be great. And go ahead and follow. That would be really great as well. And so the main qualifications for the public service loan forgiveness and a temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. And by the way, it is just one application. So someone asked how long it takes. I guess it depends. I would probably say 30 minutes to an hour. But then remember, there are a few more caveats than just the regular student loan forgiveness program that starts, that takes less than 5 minutes. MCB doc. Oh, what type of doctor are you? So I am, I guess, not a regular doctor, if that makes sense. So I am not an MD, I am a PharmD. So I am a doctor of pharmacy. Specifically. What kind of doctor are you? MCB Doc 154. I'm assuming you might be an MD. Thanks for joining us. And so I had I think I had about $113,000 in student loans. And then I actually went ahead and paid mine off in 2017. In which there was a public service loan forgiveness then, but I don't know. I grew tired of waiting, so I was like, maybe I can just pay these off. Jade Blue, is the student loan forgiveness still on hold? So yes, the student loan forgiveness as of today is still on hold. Yes, because there are a lot of pending lawsuits against the program. Because there were a few states initially, about 6 states that were like, hey, we don't think this is lawful, and we don't think that the Biden administration has authority to do this, to give the forgiveness. And even we're saying, okay, it might worsen inflation, it might make the revenue less for each state, these kind of things. So things are still pending as of right now. So yes, you're right. Student loan forgiveness is still on hold at the moment. And I'm praying that it's not on hold so long that, things change. Yeah, exactly. My thought too. Okay. I forgot what we were saying. So we wanted to talk about the qualifications for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program and the public service loan forgiveness. So to get complete forgiveness, you have to have 120 payments or 10 years worth of payments. And then of course, Jay Blue, you're welcome. And the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness counts your $0 suspended payments during COVID. So that's a really big thing. So basically for about 3 years, it will count those payments that you didn't actually pay. It says, oh, okay, it was $0 for these 3 years, so we count all of those payments. Well, that's amazing because I actually have a close friend that had over $50,000 forgiven in student loans just recently in August. So it is a real program. And the provision or this temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness is exactly why we've both been online really talking about it and trying to answer as many questions as we can, because we're like, okay, this program includes so many more payments and so many other provisions, because it also includes other repayment plans. Because the reason that initially the PSLF program, there was just a very small percentage of people that were able to get their loans forgiven. It was because, for various reasons really, so the program said that, okay, only standard payments, repayment plan counted, and an income-driven repayment plan counted. And now that list of payment plans has expanded, and so we're still unsure whether the overhauled PSLF program will include this expanded version, because that's another reason where you could be basically on any repayment plan under the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. Could be graduated repayment plan, pretty much could be anything. And then again, you could have late payments, partial payments, all of those as well, and those would count towards your 120 payments, along with those $0 suspended payments as well. So other qualifications, you have to be working at least an average of 30 hours a week. And then you also have to work for a qualifying employer. Vatternoop and Jade Blue, thank you so much for that. Follow the host. I appreciate it, guys. So go ahead and follow, like, comment. That would be so great. Share with somebody that you know. Mocha 585, welcome. So yes, you have to at least be working 30 hours on average per week with a qualified employer. And then how do you know that you have a qualifying employer? Is that you look on your W-2, you're looking for the EIN number in the top left. It's the employer identification number. You will plug that into the search tool on the studentaid.gov website. So you use the PSLF search tool, and you'll know whether your employer is qualified. And then one of the last things is that you have to have your loans consolidated into a direct consolidation loan in order to qualify for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness, which ends today. MCB Doc 154. You also have $200,000 in loans from med school. Okay, gotcha. So MCB Doc, trying to think, what is my question? So you are working right now because your loans do have to be in repayment status, MCB Doc 154. So if your loans are in repayment status, and then if you are working, then you're in repayment status, the next question is okay, is who you're working for, which is probably right, a hospital or a clinic, something like that, is that considered a qualifying employer? So you'd have to go on studentaid.gov and check to see if they're a qualifying employer. Because a lot of the times, physicians, pharmacists, respiratory therapists, you know what I mean? You can easily work for like a nonprofit hospital that does qualify a lot of times. So like the hospital I work for now actually does qualify. So I've been telling a lot of my coworkers about the program. Because I'm like, if you're going to stay here for, at least some period of time, it does count. So I guess those are my questions, MCB Doc. Are your loans in repayment status? Do you work for a qualifying employer? So let's start with those. So let me know if you have further questions about that part. Because we want to start there to really see, where you are and could you be eligible, because you would want to apply by today. So you can at least go on studentaid.gov right now and type in that employer identification number. And thankfully this does end on a weekday too, so which means if you needed to call your loan servicer or the Department of Education, you'd be able to. Mama Chris 1 says, how do I know if my employer is qualified or is a qualified employer? So Mama Chris, you want to go on your W-2. Top left corner is the EIN number or the employer identification number. And then you'll take that EIN number and go to studentaid.gov and you'll find the PSLF search tool and you'll plug that EIN number into there. And it'll let you know, is your employer a qualified employer? And if, let's say, it says nothing and it says, oh no, they're not, I would always call the Department of Education and double check, because companies will change their tax status all the time and then say, oh, okay, we actually are a qualified employer now, which has happened to me before. 6 months prior, the company said, no, we're not. And so I didn't bother. And then 6 months later, they were like, they told someone else that they were. I was like, okay. Okay. I think I'm getting a little behind in the comment section here. Let's see. Okay, Mama Chris, we got you. MCB Doc, I'm a fourth-year anesthesia resident at a state institution. A fourth-year anesthesia resident. So, okay, so you are still fourth-year anesthesia, but you're a resident. Okay, so if you're a resident, you are getting paid though. Okay. And so, but are your loans in repayment status, MCB Doc? Because I know you're not, as a resident, you're not maybe making a ton, but it means you are still getting a small salary, right? Unless I am incorrect. So MCB Doc is saying they, fourth year anesthesia resident at a state institution. Yeah, so that's my question is, okay, are your other loans in repayment status? Because if you're a resident, oops, I'm shifting things around. You should be getting paid a small amount at least, but it should mean that I would assume that the rest of your loans are in repayment status. Mama Chris, okay, doing that now, thanks. Okay, of course, yes. MCB Doc 154, would my last 4 years qualify retroactively for PSLF if I haven't filed any paperwork yet. So MCB Doc 154. So yes, that is basically how the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness works, is that retroactively they would look at your 4 past years, but as long as you were with a qualified employer. That's the caveat. As long as you were a qualified employer, you were working at least 30 hours a week. So you have to make sure that you were during those times. Because of course you can work for a hospital or a clinic, and then if they're not a qualifying employer, those payments can't be counted. But if they are, or if they were during that time period, then those payments could be counted. Better Noob, how can we get in touch with you offline, possibly to conduct a seminar? Better Noob, you should be able to message me on TikTok, I would think. That should be fine. Or you can also email me. I am at Kanisha.Frazier. So it's KANISHA .Frazier, FRAZIER 5@gmail.com. So you can email me there. You can email me on TikTok is fine as well. Send me a message. That should be fine. And I'll see if I can reach out to you after the broadcast too. That's no problem. Thanks for thinking of me, Better Noob. I appreciate that very much. Okay. Oops. Blue strip, bankroll. That's a very interesting emoji. Is that you're feeling very exasperated emoji? I can understand that, especially when it's talking about student loans. MCB Doc 154. Loans have been on hold due to Biden's COVID exemption. They're supposed to resume 1/20/23. Yes, exactly. So yes, MCB Doc, the loans are on hold still until after the COVID suspension is over. So the loans are supposed to go back into repayment January 20th of 2023. And so that's the very interesting part, is that while we're not confirmed yet whether those will still count, those $0 suspended payments, right now, if you go ahead and apply for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness today, because today is the last day, those $0 payments will count towards your 120 payments towards forgiveness. But we have not been confirmed that those $0 payments will count if you don't apply until after October 31st. Does that make sense? So if you apply, let's say starting tomorrow, and because then it'll just be the regular PSLF program. It has not been confirmed that those $0 payments will count, because that's the part that pushes people light years ahead. It basically pushes you 3 years ahead without having to pay a dime. Mama Chris 1, the website. So student, so just STUDENT, studentaid, AID.gov, GOV. And so that's, guys, basically the website. You can find the application for the public service loan forgiveness and temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program. And then you can also check to see if your employer is a qualified employer, so you can apply for the program. Better Noob, you're welcome. Okay, so MCB Doc 154, where do I apply? So yep, you go to studentaid.gov. And then right on the front, it'll be like bold, talking about, are you looking for the public service loan forgiveness and temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness application? Apply here. And so there's a few fun things too about it now. So MCB Doc, I know that you're like, okay, this is the last day, but remember that when you go on the studentaid.gov website, when you'll create a login and start the whole process, that the Department of Education will have a time and date stamp to say, okay, the doctor came on and they started the process. And go ahead and make sure you're submitting the application by the end of today, okay? And even if, let's say, you still don't have confirmation that your loans are consolidated and you're still waiting on that confirmation, that's okay. Submit your application, your public service loan forgiveness application anyways. And then let's say they're still trying to confirm your employer eligibility, that's okay. Still submit your public service loan forgiveness application. Or you're like, okay, I am still waiting on, because Department of Education will actually ask for the signatures of your employers as well, because they are attesting that you have worked here for these 4 years in this position. So even if you don't have all of your employee signatures, the website knows that you started the process today, the last day, and still submit your application anyways, even with all of those things pending, okay? So, moral of the story, make sure to submit your temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness application no later than today. And when those employer signatures come in, make sure they don't date the form no later than October 31st, 2022. So even if they put that exact date, that's fine. But don't date it any later than that, because it has to be dated October 31st or basically sooner, to make sure that those employer signatures and everything qualify you for the program. Slim 818, welcome in the room. So yes, that was the moral of the story. So that even if you go on today and it's a multi-tiered process, because you're waiting on employee signatures, you're waiting on employer eligibility to be confirmed, you're waiting on your loans to be consolidated, all of that is a process. But since on studentaid.gov and you're using that PSLF search tool, it's basically time and date stamping everywhere to say, okay, this borrower has been on the website and they have initiated all of these different steps. And it will be dated as of today. And then make sure that your employee signatures are dated no later than October 31st, 2022. Louise, I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. Welcome in the room. If you guys are just joining us, we're talking about the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program that ends today, October 31st, 2022. Monday, right? So go ahead, please like the broadcast. Share the broadcast. And then let me know if you guys have any questions. I would greatly appreciate that. John Pearson 310, welcome in the room. We are talking about student loan forgiveness, public service loan forgiveness, and even the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. That's the specific one though, because today is the last day to qualify and apply. Andre K. Pano, welcome in the room. Trying to think of a few other things that we'd want to talk about. So remember, temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness includes pretty much any repayment plan. But it is true that, let's say you refinance, which is actually what I did. I consolidated before, many years ago, I consolidated my student loans, my $113,000, and then I refinanced those loans because I was looking for a lower interest rate. But once you refinance your loans, you cannot then be eligible for the Department of Education perks, basically. So you can no longer use forbearance, deferment, and you can no longer be eligible for loan forgiveness. So if you refinance your loans, unfortunately, it means that you're not eligible for the regular student loan forgiveness, which was the $10,000 or $20,000 for a Pell Grant, and then you're also not eligible for public service loan forgiveness either. But if you consolidate your loans, you are still eligible for those government perks, forbearance, deferment, and student loan forgiveness. And then I would say make sure that when you guys are consolidating, do talk with somebody and ask about, okay, well, can you give me an idea of what my payment will look like? Because you need to make sure also that you can afford the new payments when you consolidate. Because a lot of the time that term that you owe the money over is extended. So which means, of course, you pay more interest over the life of the loan. So you need to be aware of some little caveats about when you consolidate. So get an idea, if at all possible, of what your new payment structure will be. And then I know too that I've heard that Biden is going to come out with more repayment plans. And also capping out your, I think it said maybe to make sure that it was no more than, was it 5% of your discretionary income? So there are a lot of things to kind of try to cap how much you could be paying per month. Because I know I was paying about $800 because I owed so much. I was paying about $800 to $1,000 per month, which is insanity. Okay, I'm sorry guys. I'm a little behind in the... Okay. Yes, Mama Chris, that's a really great question. So what if I change jobs? Should I look up the current employer or the one when I started after? So any job that you believe is a qualifying employer, you would have to list all of those because they'll ask you particular dates and they'll ask you which employer that is. And so remember, in public service loan forgiveness, you don't have to work 10 years at one employer. You can work 3 at one, 2 at one, 1 year at one, and then all of those can count. So on the public service loan forgiveness, it'll ask you those different time frames and those different employers. So even if you change jobs, that's okay, but you want to make sure that each of those employers is a qualifying employer. So which means those payments you were making during that time would count. So yeah, I would go back. You'd have to go back and get the EIN number for each of those places to see, okay, do these employers qualify? Hopefully that answers your question. Mama Chris, okay, you are finishing school. Okay. So finishing, okay, Mama Chris says she's finishing school. What am I thinking of? So are your loans in repayment? Because there are some caveats to being in school and qualifying. Because that's the biggest thing. So when you're in the public service loan forgiveness program, the only way you can really qualify for the program is if you are in repayment status. Like your loans can't be in deferment or forbearance, at least usually. Some of that I believe is shifting a little bit. But then even if you are though in forbearance or deferment, it sounds like it has to be, from what I've read, it has to be for specific reasons. And then those payments could still count. Or yes, basically the non-payments of during forbearance or deferment could still count. But that's only in some circumstances. But usually with the public service loan forgiveness, you have to be in repayment status. And then remember that, let's say regular student loan forgiveness, that was the $10,000 or the $20,000 for a Pell Grant, you can be in school and receive that forgiveness. Because the student loan forgiveness, it was counting everything from undergrad loans, grad loans, Parent Plus loans, federal loans, direct consolidated loans. It was counting all of that. Use Brotherhood 1974. Thank you so much for that comment. Yes, guys, please go ahead and follow, like the broadcast, share with a friend. MCB Doc 154. Literally just applied on studentaid.gov. Thanks. Okay, you're welcome. So MCB Doc, did you applied for because I know the public service loan forgiveness takes a little bit longer to apply. And it really just depends on how much information you have on hand and how much information you have to find. Like if you have to find EIN numbers and things like that of different employers, the PSLF could take a little longer. But the student loan forgiveness, that takes less than 5 minutes. So make sure, MCB Doc, that you want to do both applications. You want to do one for student loan forgiveness, which that one takes less than 5 minutes. It asks like your name, your email, date of birth, and it asks you to attest to the income limits, which you have to make either less than $125,000 if you're single and less than $250,000 if you're married. But that's student loan forgiveness. The public service loan forgiveness will take a bit longer. So make sure you look to see both of those applications, okay, Doc? DDMW4. So I graduated last year and now work with a qualifying employer. Should I do PSLF? I would definitely look into it. DDMW4 says we're graduated last year. So which means I would think that, so now you work with a qualifying employer, so which means your loan should be in repayment. And since you know that you work for a qualifying employer, I would go ahead and get on the program as soon as possible. I would. Because, anytime any new changes come up and Biden decides to include more payments, or, you know what I mean? Anytime it's overhauled, similar to how it has for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness, it could change for your favor and in your benefit. So I would definitely go ahead and try to apply today. Because PSLF will still continue going after today, but the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness ends today. So we were talking about how there are more payments counted. So the $0 payments during COVID, starting after March 13, 2020, those counted. They were counting partial payments, late payments, all of that counted. And then if you were on a different repayment plan, those also counted. And then, of course, if you were doing teacher loan forgiveness, your payments were counting towards teacher loan forgiveness and public service loan forgiveness. And then we mentioned if you were retired, you could apply and qualify and receive forgiveness while still not working at that qualifying employer. But as of tomorrow, the teacher forgiveness and the retirement part will go back to the regular program. So which means that you will have to be working at your nonprofit organization when you apply and qualify and receive forgiveness for your loans. MCP Doc 154, I did the $10,000, $20,000 for Pell forgiveness. Okay, perfect. That's perfect that you did that, NCP Doc. And then just look into, the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness, see if that fits your needs. I am Luke Survival. Hello, how are you? So glad to see you. DDMW4, so sounds like you have another question. Let me know when you are ready. Melanated Fit Mama, cool name. Welcome in. We're talking about temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness and student loan forgiveness. We're kind of dabbling in both since they're both happening. And remember that public service loan forgiveness and temporary expanded public loan forgiveness are on the same application. And so from what I've seen, you'll receive information on when it comes back. You'll receive information back to say, okay, this is how, because remember the programs are slightly different because the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness really is expanded. It includes, more loan types or more repayment types, as well as late payments and partial payments and all of those as well as lump sums. And so it includes quite a long list of different caveats compared to public service loan forgiveness. So from what I've seen, you'll see both how many payments you have towards PSLF and how many payments you have towards temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. But these are different than the student loan forgiveness, so which means you can apply to both. I am Fluke Survival. I see the glasses. Yes, they are back. DDMW4, the October 31st deadline does not affect me since I'm with a qualified employer. Well, DDMW, not necessarily true. Only affects you in the sense of that if you apply by today, more payments will count towards the forgiveness. But I believe you said, what did you say? You said you just graduated and you've been working for your employer about a year, right? Is that correct? And see, now let's say you haven't been paying your loans because they've been suspended, right? So which means that all of those payments where you didn't actually make a payment and there were $0 payments, those would count towards your 120 payments. But let's say you say, okay, I'll just apply later in 3 weeks. So now that means that you have, let's say, however many payments, let's say it's 10 payments that could have been applied toward the public service loan forgiveness program, but they won't be because you didn't apply by the October 31st deadline. Perfectly, that makes sense. So it would benefit you to try to apply today. It really would. Because feasibly, it's basically saying that more payments could go towards your 120 payments than if you decide to do it in, let's say, a month or 2 months. Because their expanded list of benefits in the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness is really the only reason that my friend, well, not the only reason, but one of the only reasons that my friend was able to get complete forgiveness of over $50,000. Okay, yes. Okay, I applied and waiting on certification. Will it count? So DDMW, it's hard to say just because I can't see exactly what you just applied for. Was it, because if it only took 5 minutes, you just applied for the student loan forgiveness. That's what we were talking to the other doc about. So if it only took you 5 minutes and you just put in like your name and then your email and date of birth, that kind of thing, that means you just applied for just the regular student loan forgiveness. But if you're trying to apply for the public service loan forgiveness, that is a different link on the website. But it is clearly stated when you go on the website. The PSLF. The PSLF usually takes more than 5 minutes because it's a few forms long. It's connected to the consolidation form as well. So double check to make sure that you really did apply for the public service loan forgiveness, because that one's actually several pages. And then of course, because I don't work for the Department of Education, so I can't tell you that, okay, it'll definitely count, but, oh, you did it last week. Okay, I see. So you'll have to do, the best you'll be able to do is to check in with the Department of Education to see where the status is and make sure that, okay, they see that. So if I were you, I would go ahead and look back and say, so you had to get certified. I would call them today and just make sure everything looks good on their end. And I know you may probably still have a few pending things out there, because as long as you submitted the application, you should be okay. But I would still call them. I would call and say, okay, you do see that I submitted my public service loan forgiveness application, right? You'll ask them, like, it is timestamped for today. And then you can ask them, hey, it's still okay, right? That because these are a few things that can still be pending. It's still okay that the consolidation confirmation is still pending. It's okay that the employer eligibility is pending. And it's okay that the employee signatures are still pending and you don't have those yet, because all of those will take a little bit more time. We just want to make sure the application is in today. So yeah, if anything, I would contact the Department of Education and just make sure that you're like, okay, everything looks good on your side, so it shows that I have submitted it. Because remember, I don't have access to any of that information. So the best would be just to call them to make sure. Okay. Any other questions? Tamika J. Leonard, welcome in the room. User 8275, welcome in the room. We're talking about public service loan forgiveness program, specifically the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program. It ends today. Today's the last day. So if you have been considering it, please do. Dr. Jack Line, welcome. So if you have been considering applying and trying to see if you qualify for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness, please go on the website today, studentaid.gov, to see, do you qualify, to see if your employer is a qualifying employer. Make sure you're working your at least 30 hours on average, and make sure that you go ahead and consolidate your student loans, but into a direct consolidation loan. Prima Donna Portraits, welcome. Sharon Ethal, 88, welcome. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to take a nap. So once again, the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness, it is the last day, October 31st, to apply for the program. So if you've even been slightly considering it, please go and call. What is the number to call? That's a good question. But I would go on studentaid.gov. I would go on studentaid.gov and call them from there is what I would do, because I don't even know the exact number. Sorry about that, even though I think I had it in my phone not too long ago for the Department of Education. But at that time, I think I just Googled it. Because if I had questions, I was like, okay, if I have questions, I can just, but I would Google Department of Education customer service number, and there was one that came up as well. And then when you go on studentaid.gov, they have both, from what I remember, a phone number there as well as a way to contact them online. Oh, premature purchase, perfect. I'm glad you did send it in last month. Yes, I would definitely double check because you're like, okay, today's the last day. I need to make sure that they see what I see, kind of thing. I would definitely do that. And you still have a little bit of time because I think it's only maybe about 4 o'clock. Mississippi Star, welcome, welcome. Thanks, guys, for coming in the room. Go ahead and like the broadcast, share with anybody you know. Go ahead and follow as well. I would greatly appreciate that. Okay. Does the application require a lot of formation? Tamika J. Leonard says, does the application require a lot of formation? I'm not sure what you mean. So just like a lot of time. So if we're talking about the public service loan forgiveness, I mean, maybe it takes, I would say 30 minutes to an hour, but of course it depends, right? It depends on the information you have to provide. Because if you're looking for several different companies' EIN numbers and things like that, or the information and time, yeah, I would probably say 30 minutes to an hour. But yeah, it depends on, how many EIN numbers you're looking to find, if you're trying to see if all of those are a qualified employer. But it could be quick if you know all that information and then you're just providing like the time frames that you work there. And then you'll just be, making sure that you filled out the consolidation form for your loans if they need to be consolidated. And then you'll start the process of sending out information for your employer signatures, that kind of thing. So there's a few different steps. But remember, the website has that time and date stamp. So all of those things can basically be pending, but you just want to submit the main public service loan forgiveness application no later than today. Tamika J. Leonard, you are welcome. Winter Haveen, welcome in the room. We're talking about temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. Any other questions? Dime Plus, welcome. Alrighty, guys, if you don't have any other questions, I bid you adieu. Yes, Tamika J. Leonard. Yes, guys, go ahead and follow. That would be so great. Follow me, like and share the broadcast. I would greatly appreciate that. But today is the last day, so if you've been kind of considering it, go ahead and go on studentaid.gov and apply for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program. Dime Plus, hello, welcome. Thank you. Hope you are doing well, Dime Plus. So yes, if you have been considering it and you just want to look into it and see if your employer qualifies, today is the day, October 31st, the last day for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. And the PSLF, the regular program, should be available after this as well. We're praying for a complete overhaul because we needed to include more repayment plans. We needed to include just more payments going towards the our final payment count. Because the faster we can get to 120 payments, the better, because that means complete loan forgiveness. Diane Garrett, welcome. But all right, guys, I'll see you guys next time, okay? You guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Oh, highly favored. I work for a nonprofit but haven't made enough payments. So highly favored, it isn't that you have to, so in order to receive complete forgiveness, you have to pay the 120 payments. And of course, it includes those $0 payments from COVID. But you don't need 120 payments to qualify. So as long as your nonprofit is a qualified employer and you meet the other qualifications, you can still go ahead and apply and see if you qualify for everything. I am Faluke Survival. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's such a nice compliment. Thank you. So yes, highly favored. So you don't have to have 120 payments to qualify. You just need 120 payments to get complete forgiveness. So you can go ahead and apply and see if you qualify with the information you have thus far. All right, guys. Check you later. Oh, and of course, every time I leave, you guys have more questions. Let's see. This is about the Biden student loan. Yes, Sean Carter. So we're talking about both the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness and then the Biden student loans. That's most borrowers could get $10,000 forgiven or $20,000 forgiven if you are on have a Pell Grant. But remember, Biden's student loan announcement, it is on pause at the moment. But please do apply anyways. Don't wait for it to be not a thing and you're like, oh, I should have applied. Sean Carter went to college for 3 years, but I haven't finished. Okay, that's okay. Those loans would still qualify as long as those loans were dispersed after June 30th of 2022. They should still qualify for the loan forgiveness, because you can get the loan forgiveness even while you're in school. Living life, loving self. Nice name. Thank you for joining us. Hey guys, if you're just coming in the room, go ahead and like the broadcast, share, follow me. That would be great. I would greatly appreciate that. Blue Strip Bankroll. Interesting name. FM Trot. Should I have consolidated before applying for PSLF? Yes, FM Trot, you will have to consolidate your student loans into a direct consolidation loan before you apply for PSLF. Well, I won't say that. The correct words are, in order to get into the program, you will have to consolidate. But you can apply for the PSLF program today, and then even if your consolidation is still pending and you're waiting for that confirmation, you can still apply for the program today. So you don't have to have everything consolidated today in order to apply. You can still apply for the PSLF program and still have your consolidation pending. Hopefully that makes sense. True Hustler for Life, Wealth. Hello. Lisa Happy Bee. FM Trot. Okay, thank you. You are welcome. And for Luke Survival, you are back. Kakua. Cool name. Brian T. Crowder. Welcome, welcome. Living Life, Loving Self. Travel nurse. I'm not sure if my hospital, Grady Health, was nonprofit in 2005. That's a good question. So I would say the best you could do is that you would have to get the EIN number of Grady Health, and it's located on the top left of your W-2. And then you go ahead and, so that means that it might be, so it's basically considered a qualifying employer now is what you're thinking, is my guess. Living Life, Loving Self. But find that EIN number on your W-2, and so employer identification number, and then type it into the PSLF search tool on studentaid.gov and find it there. Yeah, you're right. 2005 is a long time. You could probably call them. I'm trying to think of where else you would get their employer identification number from, because you're right, 2005 was a long time. Yeah, I would wonder if you could just call HR and basically tell them what you're doing and say, hey, I'm trying to see if you can give me the EIN number for the institution, because I'm trying to apply for public service loan forgiveness. That's what I would try doing. But it was a public hospital in Atlanta. Okay, so Living Life, Loving Self says it was a public hospital in Atlanta. Okay. And then, but yeah, I would try calling. I would see if HR could just give me that information over the phone. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm trying to think of how else you would, so if you didn't have your W-2, how else you would get the EIN number. Because I wouldn't guess it was just hanging out online. But I could be wrong. I don't know. Does anybody else know? So where your employer identification number, any other place you could locate that if you didn't have your W-2? Because you're right. Although I don't know, because I probably do. Like if I worked as long as I worked from 2008, but of course not everybody does. But like when you submit your tax information, you kind of just keep it all together in a folder and say, okay, this is 2008, and so usually that would be in there. Living Life, Loving Self, combination of nonprofit hospitals over 15 years, but not one consistent for 10 plus years. Okay, so Living Life, Loving Self says that it was a combination of like nonprofit hospitals and profit hospitals, it sounds like over 15 years, but not one consistent for 10 years. So with the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness and the public service loan forgiveness, you don't have to work at that employer for 10 consecutive years. So you can actually work at several employers, as many as you want. So over 15 years, if you worked at 6 different places, that would be fine. So it would just mean, though, that only the places where that employer was a qualified employer, that would be when those payments would count towards your complete loan forgiveness. But it doesn't have to be, I worked here from 2005 to 2015, and so that's why it counts. It doesn't have to be. You can work for as many employers as you would like, but then that means that you'll just have more employers to put on the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program. So they would want, those dates that you're saying that you worked there, and then you'll have to get the signature from the employer stating that, yes, I did work there. Living life, loving self. OMG, I've been trying to get this answer for months. I see. I can imagine. Because there's so much changing and so much going on, and we're like, because we still have to live life, but then we have questions about, student loans and what we need to do and what our next steps are. Living life, loving self says, do I need the signature upon application? I'm not going to make it. Okay, so living life, loving self. So do I need the signature upon application? I'm not going to make it. So, okay. So I think before you hopped on, we were talking about that. So when you go on the studentaid.gov website, the Department of Education has a time and date stamp. So they'll know that, okay, she went ahead and she's already started the application and these different areas are pending. So it's okay if, let's say, your consolidation confirmation is pending. It's okay if your employer eligibility is still pending. It's okay if you don't have all the employee signatures, if all of those are pending. You just want to make sure that you submit the public service loan forgiveness application today. So it's time, date stamped for today. So all those other things can be pending and then still trickling in. And then just the employee signatures, you want to make sure that the employer doesn't date it past October 31st, 2022. So basically dated as of October 31st, 2022 or earlier. So I would still try. Don't count yourself out, okay? So I would still go on studentaid.gov. Right at the top, it'll basically say PSLF and temporary expanded PSLF application. It's just one payment. So I would go on there today. Okay, you couldn't get past needing the EIN number. I'm trying to think. So I couldn't get past needing the EIN number. So living life, loving self says I couldn't get past needing that EIN number. That's the first thing it asked for. Or was I in the wrong place? I would think that, I'm trying to think. I'm like thinking where am I, because I printed out the application. I'm thinking, where is it right now? I'm trying to think, is it in here or is it in my closet? And so it's asking you that for each of your employers is what it's asking for. Yeah, my first thought is to call HR and to ask them. I'm like, if anybody else knows, I'm like, is there another place you could find the employer identification number? So besides your tax information, either that or I'd call my accountant, I'd call my tax guy, so like because I have, the tax stuff from back then whenever I started working, but maybe I would either try calling HR of the hospital, or I'd also try calling my tax guy, because he should have in his documents online to say, oh, the EIN number is this, I would think. I really would think that he would have that in his documents as well. I'm trying to think of how else you could find that out. And I would almost even, you can feasibly call the Department of Education and ask them, say, okay, it's asking for EIN number. Is this the only way that I can submit this application? So I would ask them, like, can I just put the name of the organization? But a lot of times I know when I looked at the application, I was thinking, okay, it seems like the application tries to stop you in different aspects to make sure that your employer is qualified before you even start. I do know that. But I would also call, that's a possibility as well. So reaching out to your tax person, I would say reaching out to HR at your at the hospital. I would try that. But then I would also try calling the Department of Education and asking them, like, okay, what if I don't have this EIN number? How else can I look up to see if my employer is a qualifying employer? And would I be able to submit the application without the EIN number, with just the name? Or, you know what I mean? Like, see what other information, because there's more than one way to skin a cat. So there has to be another option, I would think. Or some other way that you can see if that employer's qualified, if that employer qualifies. Because remember I said that, like, you could type in the EIN number and your company could not show up, but then remember it was always an option to call the Department of Education too, because you can say, hey, I cannot find the EIN number for the life of me. Is there any other way? Can you help me? Because I would think that would be their database, would be probably more expanded, and then they could feasibly just type in the information without the EIN number. And then they could tell you, and then you can ask them, hey, so can I leave that off of the application if I don't know it? Or maybe the EIN number comes up when they type in the hospital and the city or something like that. So try those avenues. You have a little while left, so don't give up. I am Z-Doc. Welcome. Bree and Shermy. Welcome. We're talking about the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program, student loan forgiveness, all things student loans. If you have questions, come on in the room. Go ahead and like the broadcast, share. Okay. Looks like we got questions. Mystical Moonbeams. So I guess I will see you guys next time. So if you have been thinking about applying for the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program, go ahead and do so by today. Today is the last day, October 31st, 2022. And remember, the studentaid.gov website will be timestamped. So they will be aware that you started or initiated the process today. And you slide in just under the wire, and you'll receive all the benefits of that temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. Have a nice night, guys. Bye. Oh, what time is the deadline? Is it midnight? That is a very good question. I would think that it would be, at the latest. So basically like 11:59 p.m. That's a very good question. But that would be, this is just my assumption, but that would be my assumption. Like if they say October 31st, 2022, that means it's no later than 11:59 p.m. You have to have the application submitted. Because it would still be considered October 31st, right? Until midnight, November 1st. You got this, living life, loving self. Try to make some phone calls and see if you can make it happen. And I'm thinking I would call the Department of Education. See what, because you know what I mean? Because then you'll have an idea. You'll be like, okay, can I do this? And they can give you some alternatives to find out the information you need. Thank you for everything. You're welcome. You're welcome. Batternoop, what is your... Oh, no, it's so I have a PharmD. So I have a Doctor of Pharmacy degree, Batternoop. Basically, I'm a drug dealer. An overeducated one, but a drug dealer. And I work in the hospital. At least I have for the last 10 plus years now. User 926, welcome in the room. We are talking about public service loan forgiveness, the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness program. Ooh, I'm getting sleepy, y'all. I gotta go. See you guys later. Take care. Bye.